Wicked, man. So thanks for taking the time out to catch up with us for Why Now Radio. Firstly, I have to say congrats, man.
No problem.
On the release of the EP Tropics Volume 1.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. But first, I wanted to spin it back to your youth. Your sound is very eclectic, drawing on influences from R&B, rap, and jazz, and turning it into like your unique sound. Take us back to the early days, though. Who are some of the artists you grew up listening to, and who were the artists that influenced you?
So like early days, it was early days. I wasn't really like listening to music like that on my own. It was more like what's played in the household, right? And last that were naturally you're gonna hear enough like Jamaican artists. You get me? You're gonna hear enough of the old school because like that's what my parents grew up on. You're gonna hear enough Bob Nash. You hear enough Dennis Brown. You get me? My mom was a big fan of Sean Paul as well, and he's actually like a cousin of mine technically. So him did get play enough. And my father's side of the family is from Trinidad, so there's whole heap of calypso and whole heap of soca playing. And then my grandparents listen enough like Motown and that. So there's like all those like different eras and different regions kind of blending together. So I was exposed to a lot from early age. So even when I started really listening to music on my own, I started, downloading things and picking albums. I was already, like my palette was already expanded, So it was very easy to pick up on different stuff. So even now, it's hard for me to even find something that I don't like, right? So I think then now, when I actually started playing music and writing music and all of that, naturally that kind of carried over.
For sure. Yeah, man. Was there like a specific point in time when you said to yourself, I want to pursue a career in the music business, or was it just a natural progression?
There was definitely a point, right? Because I'd always played instruments, I'd always been around music and enjoyed it. I was pretty good at it, but it was more of a something fun for me. Like something to after school, something doing my pastime. I think I was about 16 and I had, I picked up production at that point and I'd started producing some different things. I was also DJing at the time and spinning in some places. And it's like, I don't remember exactly what I'd seen, but actually, no, I do remember. So there was this artist I'd followed, right? Who was like, not huge, it was like an underground, he's an underground DJ. And the thing is that, naturally growing up, you're seeing the superstars, right? You're seeing the biggest, like hugest artists, and it almost feels like, it's either that or it's nothing, right? But once getting into production and getting into those different scenes and exploring them. So I remember there's this guy, I was following him, and then I'd seen him get booked for this like pretty big festival. And I was like, like just a year ago, this guy was pretty much where I'm at. And now he's playing at this festival. That means like, in a year, I could be playing at that festival, right? And I realized that, a career in music is not like unachievable. Like it's actually realistic if you work at it. And it doesn't have to be everything or nothing. Like you can build your way up and, be supporting yourself like while you're growing even more. And I was like, I can do this. If that you can do it, like that youth is not that special. You get me? Like I can do this. So
how old are you? 16?
Yeah, about 16.
About 16. Okay.
Yes. So then that's the point. I think I'd always loved it and everybody would love to kind of be in music, but especially in Jamaica, it's not something that people present to you as like, oh, this is like a real career choice. Like, it's something you can like. Here's how you get into the industry. So when I started seeing that, it was like, this is something I can do. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And from that time, it's just been like working on like building up more and more.
You've been working hard, man. You've been working hard. Now, I mean, you first came to my attention with the Pine and Ginger track, which is just such a great record, man. I love that track.
Respect.
I checked it out yesterday on YouTube whilst doing a bit of research for this, and I noticed it clocked up over 6 million views. It's got that timeless feel to it, and I think it's a track that in many years, you know, you'll be able to revisit it and it still sound as fresh as it when it first dropped.
Respect.
And it kind of encapsulates the sound of that time. You know, you had acts like Major Lazer that were taking that Caribbean sound, merging it with their influences and taking it to a global stage and having immense commercial success. I wanted to ask you how you connected with Amindi and Valleys and how the connection evolved into the Pine and Ginger record.
So all of that was really as a product of SoundCloud, right? Mm-hmm. So I met Valleys through SoundCloud in 2016, I believe. And, you know, we had just, or it might have actually been 2015, right? Like where we had sent each other a couple of DMs on SoundCloud just to be like, hey, I like your music, or I like your music too, cool, like regular thing, you know? And it was sometime in between that time, he was, so he lived in North Florida. This time I was at school in Orlando. And he had said, yo, I'm actually coming down to Orlando to visit this other studio, right? And there's like a really popular studio in Orlando. And he had also connected with one of the engineers there over SoundCloud. And he said, yo, I'm going down to this studio. You should meet me there and we can have a session, right? I was like, cool. Linked up at the studio, like we hit stuff. The other guy there, Iggy, hit stuff too. And he's like, yo, I love the vibe in Orlando. I'm gonna move down to Orlando, right? So let me know if there's any, you know, any places, because he was actually originally trying to move into that studio because they have like 8 rooms there and like people live there and work there, but there's no space. The week after that, my roommate was like, yo, I'm dropping out of school and I'm dipping, right? From Orlando. So I was like, shit, I need a roommate. And I was like, boom, yo, Valleys, I need a roommate. You want to come live with me? Next week, boom, roommates, right? So then it's just like, all right, that is something. He's a super cool brother. And, you know, he's a great producer. But the interesting thing is he'd never been really exposed to Jamaican music, right? More than like, you know, like what? Like an average American would hear. So I exposed him to a whole heap of dancehall, the cartel, and all these things. He's like, yo, I want to work on a dancehall record. So he actually started up the beat with like his chords and like a basic drum pattern and all these things. And I was like, yo, this slaps. And he's like, yeah, I have some more of this, go work on it. So he had been working on Mindy through SoundCloud, same thing, just email and whatever. And he had done like 2 tracks with her before, but they're R&B tracks. And he didn't even know that she was half Jamaican, right? So he sent the tracks to her, with the track, like the demo of the track. He said, like, yeah, you want to record something over this? She sent back, you know, a snippet of the chorus. And he came to me and he's like, yo, I think this is good, but like, I don't know if it's good because I don't know what like a good like dancer is supposed to sound like or whatever. So you can let me know. I heard it. So I'm like, yo, this is hard, but like this is not just like, it's not like an American. Like this girl is definitely like has Jamaican roots or whatever. And then I got in contact with her, and then it was like, oh, like yeah, both her parents are Jamaican. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. I was like, okay, I have some ideas because the beat was like arranged. Like what you hear as the majority of the beat now was actually just an intro, and it went into like a hip hop section and like went into like a bunch of other like things. So I was like, yo, let me sit down with this for a little bit. I rearranged and I was like, yo, match it out. I did trumpets and little things. I did my verse and then the second verse and then arranged out the thing. And we went back to that same studio, and the guy Iggy there, who's like an amazing engineer, he like we all sat down and mixed it and put it out like a couple of weeks later.
Wow, what a story, man. That's crazy how you were. Yeah, man. And the visualizer for Pine and Ginger, like it really stands out, man. The direction of your video and like the style in general, you're creatively very much in a different place to what we see in dancehall. It seems to me that there's like a real attention to detail there in the whole aesthetics of not only the Pine and Ginger video, but more recently No Answer and Tropics. Was that deliberate or just a natural development for you?
You know, I think it was a little bit of both, right? I think the style, like where the style is going, is a natural development, but it's definitely deliberate in that we are making sure to kind of take care in putting out visuals that accurately represent like what we want to represent, right? So, you know, for me personally, I think the visuals are a huge part of, you know, the whole push, and of also like what you want people to associate with you, right? Because the music is one thing, but even like what you see in the visuals can change how people, you know, kind of acknowledge the music, and they can change how they, like where they place the music, right? Because it can give a whole different meaning, right? And it adds so much to just like the mental picture of it and of you as an artist. So for all my visuals, I've been really, you know, conscious about like, what I'm doing with them and like what they're really saying, and that, you know, they just have to be high quality as well. Like I can't have anything like the low part, just because I feel like the music is on this level. It don't make sense to have the visuals on that level, right? I'd rather not do any visuals if I can make sure that they're equal, because it's a whole audio visual thing. Like I feel like we live in a world today where, you know, the music is not just the music. The music is part of a bigger picture, and that includes even like, you know, the culture and clothing and how people live, you get me, and what people do. So yeah, man, it's definitely an important part of it for me.
Yeah, man. So the EP Tropics Volume 1 is out now. What's the response been like so far?
Yeah, so far the response has been fire still, you know. One thing I love actually with this whole response is like, there hasn't been, I mean, naturally, you know, there's Tropics, the title track that has the video for it. And, you know, there's a couple other singles that have been put out, but overall it's been like an equal response across the project. I feel like people are actually vibing with the whole project and not just like the one single or like that one feature, you know. So that's what I'm really happy about more than anything. That people seem to be actually taking in the whole thing, and they're like, yo, I love this track, I love that track, I love this track. This person's like, that's my favorite. That person's like, no, that one's my favorite. And
what's your
that's
favorite?
really, my favorite.
You have a favorite?
I feel like my favorite is Sweeter Still. Just because like I love that Latin feel of the thing. I feel like it's like one of the most different tracks to do. And obviously OJ came on there and killed it. And OJ is somebody I've been listening to for like years. So to have him on a track on the first project too is really fire.
And how did that come together? Did you send him the beat? Did you have him in mind for that track, or was it just you wanted a feature from him? And tell me.
So that one's an interesting story actually. So he actually did a feature for a track a while back, right? That I sent him the beat for and everything. And then that track ended up getting scrapped, right? But then I was like, yo, still have this feature. Let me try build a track around the feature, right? So I had this verse and I was like, okay, I'm gonna build a track that can go with this verse, right? And so this track kind of got built in reverse. His part first, and then I built the thing, and then he went back in and like re-recorded because it's a new beat and everything, and then I kind of changed up his thing a little bit, and then that's how it ended up where it is right now.
Greatness, man.
So yeah, so it's kind of funny because like he had the thing, and like I sent him like this is it's like a couple of years ago. I sent him this complete other track. I'm like, yo, listen to this, and he's like, yo, this is hard. You get me? But that's how things work out sometimes. You know, you never know where something might fit the right place.
That's it. Yeah, man. Now, 2020 has been difficult for all of us in the music industry, in terms of live events and performing. And with this new strain of COVID coming in this year, and starting to spread, it's looking like, you know, the chances of getting back to any kind of normality are kind of diminishing somewhat for us in Europe a little bit. Now, for you as both a producer and an artist, you're probably used to the kind of solitary life, a little bit working in the studio, and not having that stage there to be able to perform new material must be frustrating. How have you been able to adapt in these times, and has it allowed you to be more creative in the studio?
So, yeah, definitely. Like naturally, you know how it go.
Yeah,
it's been rough, you know. And especially with the new project, I think a big part of our plan for the new project was to have it out there live, right? Our whole heap of shows booked last year, and it was like everything was actually mapped out around the project and tours. Like, okay, this song's gonna drop, and then we'll have these like 14 shows right after. So like by the end of that, there's gonna be 20,000 people who have heard those songs for sure, and then we're going on and going on. But it's just one of those things where like you just have to do what you have to do, right? Like yeah, it can be sad. Definitely like sad for a bit when my tour got cancelled and all that, and but I saw two South by Southwest shows that were really like put a whole heap of effort into, and we're going, yeah, it's gonna be the greatest thing, and naturally those got cancelled. So it's not wrong with kind of feeling down about it, but you just have to keep moving on, because it's either that or you stay stagnant, and that's not really an option. So for me, it's really just been, well, I think the good thing for me also a little bit throughout the year, because I was focused on getting the project out, I had a lot of work to do that didn't have to be like, it wasn't as much about putting out things as getting ready to put out things. So it was a lot more like solitary work and that type of thing, which is calm, because like I have all this time to do the work, I have all this time to plan up the videos and to plan up the content or whatever. Coming into this year now, it's a little bit more difficult, because it's really about the things are out there. Now you need to be in front of the people. It's about finding other ways to do that, whether it's like, it's like visuals, like find engaging content. Have a couple of virtual performances that are coming up really soon. It's like going on lives, interacting with people, just making people feel a part of it. Because the same way that we feel not being in front of people is the same way people feel not being able to see us perform, So like, we can bond over that, and people want a way to reach out, just like we want a way to reach out to people. So just find those mediums and finding other ways. And I think that once even things kind of return back to some state of normal, even the things and the ways we've had to innovate now will make those experiences even better, right? I don't think things are necessarily going to go back to exactly how they were, when we've realized that we can actually do so much more, and we can figure out ways to do things better,
For sure, yeah, man. I wanted to ask you, any dream collabs? Any like producers you love to work with, or artists you'd love to work with?
Yo, definitely. There's like so many. Every time I get this question, I feel kind of stressed. I'm like, yo,
yeah.
I'm like an encyclopedia.
It's like, it's too many to choose from, man.
No, but definitely, I know like a couple of people, like Rema is probably like one of my favorite artists right now. Like I love everything he puts out. So definitely want to work with him. Chance the Rapper was one of my first like big influences as an artist from when he dropped Acid Rap. Like to me, that's still like my favorite project, like my favorite hip hop project. And I get enough heat for that, but I don't care. Like that project does like, but like, I mean, if you listen to that in comparison to my sound, like even just like composition, all this type of stuff like that just connects with me. And producer wise, I feel like really like the African producers are doing it right now still. Like London is sick, Ozedicus is sick. Probably those two guys, I feel like I'll just create something like different with them, So those are just a couple off the top that are some collabs looking to lock down at some point.
Wicked, man. Well, thank you so much for taking time out again and catching up with us, and wish you all the best on future endeavors, and hopefully we'll be able to link up soon, man.
Yo, definitely. I should have been in England like for the whole at the end of this last year, but you know how it goes, bro.
Yeah.
Just time. It's just time.
That's it.
But definitely. Bless up. It's been good to talk again soon for
yeah,
sure.
Man. Enough respect.
All right. Peace, bro.
Peace, bro.